The Diary of a Certified Psychopath, 19th of September, 2021. Tie is a precious thing. Throughout my years as a recreational peddler, I've had numerous conversations with colleagues in regard to cycling's three major spoilers: rain, wind, and traffic. Time was when I'd tolerate any or all in unlimited volume and intensity. Soon after, it became a case of, OK, I'll endure the gusts and the cloudbursts, but please, let those roads be nice and empty. Or perhaps, I'll brave that wild westerly and suffer those maniacal motorists, but if it's tipping down, I'll wait till later, or at a stretch, tomorrow. As the seasons rolled by, and the reality of indoor cycling developed from disenchanting drudgery on a dumb turbo trainer to an engaging and fully interactive synergy between super smart technology and vividly vibrant immersive virtual worlds, this gradually evolved into, right, for every tailback I'm forced to navigate, it's 5 kilometers less. Or, if it feels like less than 10 degrees and that flag across the street is fully unfurled, the only jersey I'll be wearing will be brightly coloured and made of moisture-wicking pixels. Most recently, I've added a fourth variable spoiler, that of ABH, a familiar acronym which, in this context, stands for ambient bodily harm, and was inspired principally by Sussex's terminally deteriorating roads, whose exponentially expanding population of cracks, ridges and potholes can be as intrusively tortuous, i.e. not by choice of the rider, as the entirely voluntary breathless agony of ascending a 20% gradient. To put things simply, which I admit is an art I am far from mastering, adversities such as cold wind, relentless drizzle, heavy traffic, or savage road surfaces can all individually or collectively cause a cyclist engaged with fitness training to instinctively reduce their aerobic effort as a means of physiologically enhancing potentially life-saving cognitive awareness. And it is under these all too common circumstances that a trusty, weighty, flat bar relic such as this ibis silk becomes an indispensable companion. Merely by virtue of its extra mass and innately increased levels of resistance, a classic mountain machine, pannier ready tourer, or do-anything hybrid arrayed in fat, deep-treaded tyres will all natively require sufficient additional effort to constitute a vigorous enough workout for the rider not to have to consider the compensatory velocity that they might otherwise feel compelled to risk on a carbon thoroughbred when subjected to pervasive, painful, and physical distractions, whilst simultaneously alleviating the distractions themselves. The wider tyres absorb the shocks, the flat bars encourage more out-of-saddle activity, thereby recruiting additional muscle groups and intuitively elevating one's aerobic exertion, whilst the inevitably reduced pace ensures that slow-moving traffic goes from being a stressful hindrance to structure and performance to, at worst, a minor inconvenience. In conclusion, had I not this faithful steed, or something very similar in my stable, this errand-related ride would have been 3.7 kilometers long. 20th of September, 2021. Homespun harvest. Following through with Sunday's philosophy of staunch the sting but keep the sweat, I'm stuck for a more succinct slogan. This grocery-themed on- and off-piste potter featured more in the way of traffic evasion than wind avoidance, and included a full tour of the Ada Rapids, beginning behind Shoreham's gentrified rope tackle development, adjacent to the river itself, and concluding at the western end of Bramber's and Upper Beeding's bypass. Or is it the eastern end of Stenning's bypass? Or should I just say, somewhere on the A283? Regardless, this trail of blissful tranquility never fails to provide invaluable sanctuary and therapeutic sensory relief from the strident snarl of speeding motorists, despite its natural shelter of formerly flourishing verdancy now beginning to bear autumnal character. Dried and brittle twigs, leaves haphazardly shed from their suspended seasonal dwellings, forming a desiccated work of abstract impressionism upon their dusty canvas, and adding a percussive soundscape of snap and crackle to the constant gravelly crunch beneath, almost as if my wheels' rubber-shod rims were a stylus and the ground beneath them a groove in a well-worn vinyl record. Being comprehensively outdragged by two roadies up Coombs Lane's fast-twitch-friendly Col Dannington on my cruise back to the coast served as a salutary reminder of just how much harder one is forced to work on a bike twice as heavy and half as aerodynamic. Not that I've ever been the obnoxiously vain type who always has an excuse. Curious to discover where that inviting slip road just north of quaint little Coombs's junction with Shoreham's rip-roaring bypass led, I headed left after the traffic lights, then sneaked right through a small passage of green gloom and mashed my way up a steep ascent until I arrived at Lancing College's magnificent chapel. A vast, spellbinding and majestically imposing embodiment of Victorian Gothic architecture, erected in the 19th century, dedicated by Archbishop Coggan almost 100 years later, but curiously, like Schubert's Eighth Symphony, officially unfinished to this day. Standing awe-inspired in its colossal shadow, I perceived the sumptuous sonorities of its bellowing pipe organ in full and resonant voice, drifting across the surrounding fields, and affording a modicum of artistic integrity to the harsh dissonance of distant traffic.